Binoculars. There are hundreds of different options, different sizes, different magnifications, and different prices. And honestly, standing in front of this many binoculars can be pretty intimidating. But choosing the right pair can completely change your viewing experience. Today we'll be looking at some of the binoculars we sell here at George's Cameras, breaking down the specs and what they actually mean, so that hopefully when you want to buy one, you'll know what to look for.
Before we get into it, I've dropped timestamps in the description below so you can jump straight to whichever section is most relevant to you, whether that's a specific activity, a brand, or just the specs breakdown. But if you've got the time, stick around for the whole thing. It's worth it.
So first things first, before you can buy a pair of binoculars, you need to understand what the numbers mean. So as you can see, with all binoculars, you're going to have 3 sets of numbers, and I'm going to run through exactly what each one means. So the first number with the next to the multiplication, for example, on this one is a 10, is the magnification. 10 times means these binoculars can see 10 times what the naked eye can. So if I look through here, over towards our buddy Mitch there, I'm going to be able to see him at 10 times what my eye usually would be able to see. So alongside the magnification, the number right next to that is the diameter of the lenses. So that means that these lenses here have a 50mm diameter. So the larger that number, the larger the binoculars are going to be and the more light they're going to let in. And last up, you have your field of view in the measurement of degrees. So this one here has a 6-degree field of view. But what does that actually mean? So if you are shooting on a wider set of binoculars, such as like an 8x magnification or a 6x magnification, you're going to generally be able to see wider. And then if you're shooting on a higher magnification binoculars, something like a 12 or a 14, your field of view is going to become narrower. Now that is sort of just measured in these levels of degrees. So most are going to sit around 6 to 8 degrees, but obviously as you go up in magnification towards something like a 14, you're going to come down in degrees to somewhere around a 4 or a 5 degree angle. Now let's look at the different types of binoculars, because they're not all designed the same and the different designs can make a real difference to your viewing experience. There are a couple other types of binoculars that we won't be looking at today, and those are zoom binoculars, which allow you to zoom in and out, but they do lack quality of glass and are nowhere near as sharp as fixed binoculars like these. And then also night vision binoculars, which pretty self-explanatory, see in the dark. The first and most popular design is the roof prism. So these are the straight through binoculars that you pretty much see everywhere. These are amazing because they seal very well from water and dust. So they're very, very waterproof, and they're also extremely sharp. They do cost a little bit more to manufacture than other types, but the money's worth it. Next up, we have the classic Poro prism design, which is that iconic stepped design. Now, these ones generally give you a wider field of view and brighter images, but generally aren't as sharp as the roof prism. But they are also a little bit more cost effective because they are cheaper. There are also specialist types of binoculars, such as this one here, which is a Mariner binocular. These are salt water resistant, and some models can also float. Then we have compact binoculars. These guys are great for putting in your pocket and taking everywhere with you. The only downside to them is that because their lenses are a little bit smaller, they're not as good in low light. Magnification is usually the thing that most people focus on, but bigger doesn't always mean better. Lower magnification binoculars from 5 to 8 times zoom are ideal for things such as sports, as they are easier to track a subject since they're wider, and they're also more forgiving with handshake as they're not as tight. Next, you have your medium magnification binoculars, which is between 8 to 12 times magnification. Now, this is the most commonly found magnification on binoculars. Generally, 8 and 10 are the most popular, and they can be used for a variety of things, most commonly used for bird watching or hiking. And then you have your high magnification binoculars, which is 12 magnification and above. Now these are going to require some level of support, whether that would be your environment, sort of like leaning on a fence, or buying a tripod, because you're going to get a lot more shake when you are that far zoomed in. Beyond the core specs, there are a few features that are really important to look at that maybe don't get talked about enough. The first one is the eye cups. So these eye cups serve 2 purposes, one being comfort and blocking the light, and the second is getting your eyes the correct distance from the lenses. So it is really important to pick up a pair that has comfortable eye cups that will suit your eyes. So next up is your diopter, which is this ring here, and then the focus ring on the top here. Now it's really important that both of these dials are smooth, particularly the focus dial, because that is what you're going to be using to track your subjects. Now the way the diopter works is it basically balances the lenses for your eyes. So if your left or your right eye is slightly stronger than the other, you use this to balance it out. And the way that works is you start by closing your right eye and using the top focus wheel to focus until the left eye lens is in focus. And then you close your left eye and then focus using the diopter until the right eye is in focus, and then you're balanced. Another really important feature is waterproofing and nitrogen-filled binoculars. Now, waterproofing is pretty self-explanatory. Getting yourself a pair of binoculars that is waterproof is extremely useful if you are using them outdoors regularly. The other thing is the nitrogen-filled binoculars. Now, these binoculars that are injected with nitrogen, the reason for that is to stop fogging between extreme temperature changes. So if you are someone who's going to be using it in a super cold environment and you come into a warm, car or whatever, the nitrogen inside will avoid fogging inside the lenses. And last up is lens coating. Fully multi-coated lenses are the best, that's the gold standard. And what they do is they reduce glare, they increase brightness, and they improve the colors. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running through different types of activities and different binoculars that perform well within those activities. So our first activity, if you can tell by my voice, is bird watching. So we've come out into nature, into a really good area where there's lots of birds around, and we're going to test out 3 different types of binoculars and see how they perform within bird watching. Let's get into it. So within our bird watching range, we have 3 different budgets. I'm going to start with the lower budget here, which is our Nikon Monarch M5 10x50s. So we've got a 10 magnification with a 50mm opening, which is nice for bird watching. 10 magnification is perfect for this sort of distance here. I'm just focusing up. There's a tree just ahead of me, and I've seen a few birds sort of landing on there. So I'm going to see whether they'll come back and we can see them through these binoculars here. One really nice thing about these is the price. Obviously it's a lot less than the other 2 we're looking at, but also it's really sharp for what it is. And that 50 opening is nice. It lets a little bit more light in than your other options here. We've got a 32 coming up, which lets a little less light in than the 50 does here. Come on, birdies. Oh yeah, there we go. So we got one just out there, cute little guy. And yeah, 10's pretty much a perfect magnification for this. If these were a 12, I think it would be a little bit too shaky. But yeah, these are great. Okay, so now we've got a very different type of binoculars. This is the Canon 10x32 image stabilized pair of binoculars. So these actually have built-in stabilization, which means when I look through up here, for example, when the stabilization is activated, it's really dead still, and it sort of cancels out all of that shake I get with my hands. And it means that viewing a further distance is a lot easier. And one thing to note with these is with a 32 opening, it is a lot tighter. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. If you are trying to focus on something at a further distance, it's much easier with this because your focus distance is smaller, so it pinpoints it a little bit more, and that stabilization means that you can pretty much stay on target at all times. So last up here, we have the Leica Trinovid 10x32 HDs. Now, these are sort of the higher budget option. These are supposedly incredibly sharp, so I will be the judge of that. But first impressions is they are very small, they are very light, very compact. So if you are doing long walks or long days already, these seems like a good option. Okay, straight away I'm noticing very sharp and seems to get a really good distance. Weirdly, I think because it's a smaller opening, obviously, your field of view isn't as wide. And actually, I'm finding that works really nicely for this sort of bird watching stuff because you really only want to focus on the one spot. So having a smaller opening means that you basically you pinpoint that target and it will, it's nice and clear and easy to see. And even with it being a 32, it still seems to be letting in lots of light. There's no issues with getting a dark image there. Yeah, very impressed, very sharp. So one thing to note, guys, is all the footage that you're going to see through these binoculars is shot on a mobile phone. So it is purely just a reference. It's not going to be particularly accurate as to the sharpness or brightness. The best way to find out what they really look like is come down to George's and try them out. So after using the 3 different types of binoculars, I'd have to say that the Canons are my favorite. Now, the reason for that is I found that the stabilization was incredibly useful, because when you are bird watching, generally you have to fixate on one point for a long period of time. So having that image stabilization really, really helped out. That's not to say the other 2 were bad. The Monarchs were great and they're amazing for the price. And of course, those Leicas are incredibly sharp. But for me, my personal favorite would be the Canon stabilized pair. If you're into your hiking or long walks and you want to get a pair of binoculars, you're going to need something compact, lightweight, and weather resistant. So we've got a couple of options. Let's take a look at them. Okay, so first up we have these, which are the Canon 8x32 waterproof binoculars. Now, these are super, super durable, fully rubberized, fully waterproof. So these things can take a knock. What I'm going to do, just to test the sort of sharpness and the brightness, it's just a gum tree up here. I'm literally just going to see how sharp the image is and how bright it is. Yeah, these give you a really nice sharp image. You're not getting any sort of crazy zoom. Most of the binoculars in here are all going to be 8 magnification. You know, when you're hiking and walking, you don't necessarily need super big reach. Like, these are literally just your general viewing for whilst you're hiking, that are super durable and they're going to last. One thing to note about these as well is that you can no longer buy these ones brand new. So these are sort of the budget option, because you have to pick these up second hand. But if you can't find them, don't worry, because we've got plenty more here that you can pick up through George's. Next up, we have the Pentax 8x25 waterproof binoculars. Look at the size of these things. These things are tiny, like they literally fit in the palm of my hand. So if you're after something really compact and small, this could be the pair. Fully waterproof, nitrogen injected as well, so you don't get any of that fogging between temperature differences. But let's see how sharp they are and how they perform against the Canons there. Yeah, there's a really nice little image. It is a little bit harder to look through with your eyes because the opening is so much smaller. You do really have to hold them right up against your eyebrows to stabilize it. But I mean, for the size and weight, the image is really strong. It's very bright and very impressive for such a tiny pair of binoculars. Now we have a slightly more premium pair. This is the Leica Ultravid 8x32 HDs. So a little bit larger than the Pentax is, but smaller than the Canons. And obviously being Leica, I'm expecting really, really sharp image. Yeah, straight away. That is crazy sharp and very bright. I mean, you sort of expect it with Leica. You know, they're a lot more expensive, but wow, if you were after a good pair, these are amazing, really sharp. So we have another Leica pair here. This is the Leica 8x25 Noctovids. So again, very similar size to the Pentax, but quite a lot more expensive. So let's see how they match to the Pentax. And you know what, to be honest, they're not that much better than the Pentaxes. I'm actually sort of struggling to see through here. Yeah, I mean, they're good, but are they worth that much more than the Pentaxes? I don't know. You can be the judge of that. And last but not least, we have the Vortex 8x28 Diamondback HDs. Now, obviously, Vortex is known for their durability. They are literally designed for outdoor use. A really nice little pair, super compact, very, very lightweight. Let's see how they go. Wow, really nice, very sharp, very bright, and they sort of hit that sweet spot of not being too small that it's difficult to see through them, but they're not too big that, you know, they're gonna weigh you down. It's a really nice, sharp image. Honestly, for the price, I'm very, very impressed. That is a nice, sharp, bright image. So there we have it, guys. That's some binoculars there that are ideal for hiking or outdoors walking. I'd have to say my favorite overall would probably be the Vortex Diamondback 8x28s. The reason being is just, I think for the size, the weight and the quality that you get for the price, I think it's hard to beat. It's a really, really nice pair of binoculars. I mean, obviously the Leicas are giving you incredible quality, but they are a lot more expensive. So I think for the money, I think the Vortex is my winner on that. You're probably wondering where I am right now. I'm in a boat and I'm going to be testing a couple of Mariner binoculars from Fujifilm. So let's get to it. So in another situation where you may need to be using binoculars, it could be out on the sea like we are now, out on a boat. So there are specific binoculars that are made for this sort of thing. Obviously, they're gonna have to be highly, highly waterproof and also be able to float if you do drop them in the water. So this first pair we've got here is the Fujinon 7x50s. Now there's two variants of this. This variant is the CXL, I believe, because it has a built-in compass, which again, very useful if you're lost navigating somewhere. But obviously the 7x zoom is probably perfect for this because, as you can see, I'm on a pretty uneven surface, so I don't really want to be too zoomed in. Otherwise, there's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to see what I'm looking at. So the 7x is great, and then obviously a 50 opening as well. It means I'm going to get a wider field of view, more light in, and also it's going to stabilize it a little bit more. So I'm going to try these ones out, and I'll let you know what I think. So these ones focus a little bit differently to the other pairs. So you actually move the eyepieces until it comes into focus, and then you actually can see that compass down on the bottom there, which as I move, yeah, it's working fully. So that's telling me that that is exactly north there. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it'd be pretty useful if you're out navigating and get lost. You've got a built-in compass there, but that 7x, it's pretty manageable. And like I said, we're on a pretty, you know, shaky boat here. We're moving around a lot, but I'm able to track this gent that's on his boat here, and yeah, it's nice. It's a good level of brightness. Yeah, they're very nice. And then the other set of mariner binoculars we have are the Fujinon 14x40 Techno-Stabiscope binoculars. So these ones are double the amount of zoom as the previous ones, but these have got built-in stabilization, which obviously is going to help massively when you're out on a boat moving around. So yeah, I'll give these ones a go too. Okay, immediately we're obviously zoomed in a lot more. And now if I hit this button here, I will activate the stabilization, and wow. Yeah, that works amazingly. It's literally like keeping it completely still, because you would get pretty seasick looking into those if you didn't have the stabilization. But these things are amazing and really, really sharp. So yeah, big fan of those. So overall, I'd have to say my favorites are definitely the ones with the stabilization, the Fujinon 14x40 Techno-Stabis. I mean, they are $1,500 compared to $400 of these guys. And to be honest, for $400, you get a hell of a lot of binocular here. And if you are just after a cheap pair of binoculars to use whilst you're out on the boat, these are incredible. But I have to say the stabilization on these things works so well. When I'm looking at 14x on the boat, it doesn't even feel like I'm moving. So yeah, I am gonna have to give it to these guys. These next four binoculars are within our wildlife and safari section. Now, obviously, we couldn't get ourselves to a real safari. We don't quite have the budget for that. So instead, we've come over to Manly and opted to use a view of Sydney as our measure of distance and sharpness. So these binoculars here, their main features are going to be their durability and their weight. So they've got decent magnification on all four of these binoculars, but they are still lightweight enough that you will be able to handle them all day. So we're going to be putting them head to head and see which one comes out on top. These are the Vortex Diamondback 10x42 binoculars. Now, these are great outdoor rugged binoculars. They've got a 10x magnification with a 42mm lens, which gives you roughly 100 meters field of view at 1,000 meters. So they get a really good field of view, and they are super rugged, super lightweight, coming in just over 600 grams. So they're perfect for outdoor viewing. So these Vortexes actually do come in a really nice case. I just love the design of it, super simple. I'm just gonna pop the eyepieces open like this. And now we've got this amazing view of Sydney, you know, going miles back. So this 10x magnification, I should be able to get a really good view of that city in the distance. First thing I'm noticing is they are pretty lightweight for the size, and they feel really well made. But let's see how they look. Immediately I'm seeing that these things are super sharp, and for the price that you're paying, you're getting very, very good optics here. So I'm focusing on the Westfield Tower, which, I mean, I don't know exactly how far away it is, but I'm gonna guess it's probably around 25 kilometers at least away. And you get a really strong view of it. I can see all the writing on the top. I can see all the cranes below it and everything. I can see all the boats in the harbor down there. At 10x magnification here, it's a little bit shaky, so you wouldn't really want to go much more than 10x without stabilization. That being said, you can go for a 12x, but you need to make sure you get a bigger opening than 42, because that way you're not going to see as much of the shake, and you actually get a bit more to hold on to, giving you a bit more stability. But you know, it's very manageable. These are the Pentax Jupiters 10x50. So you have your 10 times magnification and a 50mm lens, and it gives you roughly 114 meters field of view per 1000 meters. So a little bit wider than the Vortexes. Now, the difference with these ones is instead of the straight through design of the Vortexes, this is a prism design. So we actually have mirrors inside of here. Hence why they are a little bit larger than the Vortexes. I'm definitely noticing a slightly more three-dimensional image with these binoculars here. And also it's definitely brighter than the Vortexes. But the Vortexes definitely appear sharper. The Westfield Tower just does not seem quite as sharp through these ones as it did through the Vortexes. Okay, and then the other thing I'm noticing is that the weight feels a little bit heavier than the Vortexes. I mean, it's not huge, but I could imagine if you were using these for a full day, you might notice it a little bit harder to use these over the Vortexes, but it's not a deal breaker. These are the Nikon ProStaff P7 10x50s. So they are the same magnification and lens diameter as the Pentax binoculars, but as you can see on these ones, they are not the prism design, but the straight through design. So we'll see how that affects the amount of light coming in, the depth of the image and the sharpness. Let's give them a go. Okay, so straight away, I'm already noticing a much sharper image than the Pentax, but like the Vortexes, this a little harder to stabilize, and it picks up the shakes in your hands a little bit more than the Pentax did. And also the depth of the image, I don't know, feels maybe a little bit more depth than the Vortex, but not as much as the Pentax's prism design. But it's pretty amazing the amount of detail that I'm able to see at such a long distance. They're incredibly sharp. The other thing to note as well is that the weight, it's lighter than the Pentaxes. Because it doesn't have those extra mirrors inside, it does mean it is a little bit more lightweight, so it would be a bit more manageable on longer days. But again, I'm really impressed by these ones. I think they might be my favorite so far. And last up, we have the Nikon ProStaff P7 12x50s. So we have a bit more of magnification here at 12 times compared to the 10s. So we'll see how that holds up in terms of stabilization. But the field of view is still pretty good at these, with 98 meters for every 1000. So it's only sort of a 2 to 3 meter difference to the Vortexes. So I'm interested to see how that plays. Let's get them out and give them a go. Okay, so straight away I'm noticing that 12 magnification is considerably tighter than the 10s, so I can see loads at that long distance. The only downside is now that I'm, at a higher magnification, the shake has increased a lot. So unless you are able to stand completely still and you've got very stable hands, you might find that it's a little difficult to look through these for a long period of time. It might make you feel a little bit sick. Now, they are still incredibly sharp, but I am noticing some sort of overlap between the two lenses. Overall, very sharp at long distances. And in terms of weight here, it still feels very similar to the 10x50s. So pretty impressive for a 12 magnification. And yeah, that 98 meters at 1000, it looks very similar in terms of the field of view that you get with the 10x50s. I'm pretty impressed. It's still letting in a decent amount of light because you've got that 50mm lens. But yeah, they're pretty good. So there we go, that was an overview on our 4 binoculars for the wildlife and safari section. Overall, my favorite would have to be the Nikon ProStaff P7 10x50s. I felt like these really hit the sweet spot in terms of magnification, sharpness, and brightness. Having that 50 opening compared to the 42 just meant you get a little bit of a better field of view and slightly brighter images. So overall, these are my favorite. I think you could also last pretty much a full day with these because they are very lightweight. So yeah, my favorites for the wildlife and safari section would be the ProStaff P7 10x50s. If you like playing sports such as cricket or golf and you want to get a little closer to the action, then we're going to run through a couple of binoculars that will work for you. So the first pair of binoculars we've selected for the sports, golf section, whatever you want to call it, is the 8x20 IS from Canon. So these are an image stabilized pair of binoculars. So they're quite, you know, got a narrow field of view with that 20 opening, but they should be ideal for this sort of thing where you've got a moving subject. Because you have that image stabilization, it's gonna be nice and easy to track. So yeah, I'm gonna give them a go. Okay, so I'm actually going to hold them up to my eye here, and then I'm gonna initiate this image stabilization, which immediately, as soon as you put it on, you can really see it working, and it holds the image so steady. So I'm actually focusing on a post off in the distance, as if I was trying to find my golf ball on the green. Yeah, these are amazing. They're super sharp, and that stabilization works amazingly well to sort of hold tight and keep it nice and steady. So if you are tracking a moving subject, it makes it really easy, if I'm moving left from right, to really easy to track the subject there. So yeah, these are really impressive. Now they may be a little bit too large to carry in your pocket, but if you're after something that you've got a bit of room in, these are awesome. Next up, we have the smallest pair of binoculars that Leica offer. These are the Trinovid 8x20s. These things are tiny. I mean, they literally fit in the palm of your hand. Apparently the image is super bright on these things. So yeah, I'm keen to try them out. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so I'm gonna focus up onto the same post I was looking at with the Canons. And immediately, and these guys are literally the tiniest pair of binoculars. They are so cute. And yeah, I mean, I can see that post really nice. Now, obviously, they aren't as stable as the Canons with the built stabilization, because they are a lot smaller. It does pick up a bit more shake in my hand, but I mean, these things can literally fit in your pocket, and that is a really clear, sharp, color accurate image I'm getting through there. So yeah, they're really impressive. And last up, we have the Pentax Papillo 3 WR 6.5x21s. So it's a bit of a weird magnification, but apparently these things are great for sports. I mean, they're super lightweight and compact, and they feel really nicely built. So yeah, let's see how they look. Okay, so I'm gonna put these ones on. Okay, you know what? The range, I was a bit thrown off by the numbers, but it's actually a really nice range, and it's a really, really bright image. And these things are so lightweight. Yeah, it's a really nice sharp image. You've got good contrast there as well. Yeah, I'm a fan of these. These are nice. And last up, we have a bonus pair of, not binoculars, but a monoscope from Leica. This is the Monovid 8x25. Now, whilst this technically isn't a pair of binoculars, for certain things like golf, something like this would be amazing. I mean, it's literally tiny, and if all you're using it for is trying to spot a specific target, then this should work really well. So I'm going to give this one a go as well. Okay, so I feel like a bit of a pirate looking through this, but you know what, that's a really nice bright image. I definitely wouldn't be looking through this for a long period of time. It's quite shaky, but you get a very clear image. It's nice and bright, and I mean, for this sort of thing, it's perfect. If I'm just tracking a golf ball along here, it's great, and this literally fits in my back pocket. One thing to note as well is it also comes with a wide angle attachment, which you can screw on the front, which allows you to actually view things really close up from about 30 centimeters. So that's a nice little extra. Yeah, it's a cool little thing, this. I'd say overall, my favorite was the Canon 8x20 image stabilization binoculars, mainly because when you're trying to spot such a small target like a golf ball, having stabilization is really, really useful, especially if you're playing all day and you get a bit shaky. You know, obviously the ones like the Leica, these are so good for just slipping in your pocket. So if size is your biggest thing, then I would definitely recommend the Leica. Now we're going to be taking a look at a few different long distance / hunting binoculars. So obviously we're not actually going to be hunting, so instead we've come to the coastline where we've got a real long distance view, and we're going to test these binoculars to see how far they can really see. So first up in the line, we have the Fujifilm 12x28 Techno-Stabiscope. Now these things are brilliant long range, small, compact binoculars. So the big thing about these ones is obviously the stabilization and the size. There isn't really many other things on the market that are going to be this small with stabilization. Now, this one, let me give it a go. So you switch it on at the top here, and then here we go. And then we come in, and that stabilization is amazing. Like, I'm looking all the way down onto Manly Beach from over here, and it's perfectly still. Now, obviously with a 28 opening, it doesn't let much light in. So the image is pretty dim, especially at the moment with these clouds that have come over. But I mean, it's pretty incredible, and they're very sharp for what they are. Unfortunately, they're not waterproof, so you wouldn't really be using these ones for hunting. But if you're doing any sort of long distance stuff and you need something small and compact, and maybe if you've got slightly shaky hands, these things are amazing. So this is the 12 by 28. Yeah, very impressive. Okay, so next up we have another Fujifilm pair. This is the 16 by 28 Techno-Stabiscope. So very, very similar to the previous ones we looked at, but you've just got more magnification, so 16 times. So let's give these ones a crack. Whoa. Okay, so this is really zoomed in now, and yeah, you can see really far away. Okay, let me activate my stabilization. Wow. Okay, yeah, you can really see the stabilization works really well there. Again, it's a little bit harder to sort of focus on anything with it being so tight. But man, if you wanted long distance, like if I look over to these headlands over here, I can see right over to the end of these headlands. That's pretty amazing. Yeah, so I mean, look, overall, the two are very similar. This one just gets you a little bit more zoom. They are still both very impressive. They're both very, very lightweight and portable. So yeah, if you're after something portable with good range, these could be a really good option. Okay, so next up, we have some slightly higher budget binoculars. So these are the Leica Geovid RSE 10 by 42s. Now these are very much specified for hunting. They have a built-in rangefinder which is operated by these buttons here, and it can rangefind up to 1500 meters. So if you are hunting, obviously knowing the distance of your target is extremely useful. Now 10 by 42 is not the craziest range, but if you're looking for a pair that has a rangefinder built in and has extremely sharp glass, then these are an amazing pair. So I'm actually going to get the rangefinder test to go. So I'm going to target by clicking a button once and then hit it again. I'm firing to the beach, and that is now telling me that the beach is 1,039 meters away. So this is pretty nuts. Like this thing, the rangefinder works incredibly well and can fire miles away. But yeah, also the definition of this one is incredible. It's really, really sharp. I mean, you wouldn't expect anything less for the price. But yeah, even for shorter distances, so say let's try and fire just on the rock beneath me here. If I bring that in and fire the rangefinder. Okay, so it's not detecting it there, so maybe we need to shoot a little bit further. Let's try this rock here. There we go. Hang on. So it looks like the minimum distance is around 10 meters, and it will go all the way up to 1500. But the rangefinder is pretty amazing. So as you can see here, you've got a sort of laser on the front here. So this fires out an invisible laser, and then it sort of bounces back, and because it comes back through here, it registers how far that laser has traveled. So yeah, this thing can shoot that rangefinder up to 1500. So anyone who plays golf or has used a rangefinder like that, you'll be aware of this tool. But yeah, particularly if you're hunting, very useful tool to have within your binoculars. Last up, we have the Leica Geovid RSE's 15 by 56s. So more magnification, a larger lens, but you've still got that rangefinder built in. And so these things can see really far away, and the image is still incredibly sharp and it's nice and bright. Because you have that 56 opening, you get a much wider field of view as well, and because of their size, the shake is really not that bad. But I'm going to just do the rangefinder again, ping it to the beach. Bam, there we go, 776 meters. Let's see how far we can get this to go. Okay, we're trying the building over there. There we go, 1200 meters there. But yeah, these things are pretty amazing. Now, they're not very lightweight. They are pretty heavy and pretty heavy duty. But if you need something with the range, the sharpness, and the rangefinder, then these are really going to be some of the best on the market. Okay, so overall, I'd have to say my favorite from these four is going to be the 15 by 56 Leicas. Now, obviously, this one is expensive. It does cost 3 times as much as these Fujifilms here. But if you're looking in terms of long distance performance, this thing is just a beast. The 15 magnification makes you see miles. The 56 opening is great, so lets loads of light in. And of course, having that rangefinder built in is an amazing bonus. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to run over something very quickly that is very important, and that is warranties. When you're spending a considerable amount of money, you want to make sure that that brand has your back. Starting up with Vortex, these guys offer the best warranty with their VIP unlimited lifetime warranty, which means they will repair or replace any pair of binoculars with no receipt needed, with no timestamp. I think this is an amazing offer, especially for a binocular that you're going to be using outdoors in the elements regularly. It's a really, really good thing to have. When looking at Nikon's binoculars, they are going to offer you a 10-year international warranty, which is a 5-year labor and parts coverage, followed by a 5-year parts only coverage. When looking at Canon's image stabilization binoculars, they only offer you a 2-year warranty. So this is the lowest warranty of any of the binocular brands that we have been looking at. So especially when you're using something like the image stabilization binoculars, which uses electrics, yeah, I don't know, 2 years, it's a bit risky, but they are very well built and will last you a long, long time. And also Canon service is exceptional and they are very quick with their repairs. When it comes to Leica, as you expect, they offer an exceptional warranty. So you get a 10-year passport protection warranty, which covers anything from bumps or scratches, and as long as it affects the actual operation, Leica will repair or replace it with no questions asked. You also get a 30-year warranty for the optics inside, so any issues with those, you've got 30 years of warranty on that. Next up, we have Pentax, and they offer a 25-year warranty, which is pretty amazing, and it shows that they're confident about their products and that they are built to last. And last up, we have Fujifilm, who offer a limited lifetime warranty across their Techno-Stabiscope and Mariner premium models. So again, this is pretty amazing considering that you're getting stabilization in these as well, and you're getting a lifetime warranty. Just to note though, it does only include the internal damage. It doesn't include cosmetic damage like the rubber caps and accessories. All binoculars that we stock here at George's Cameras come with an official manufacturer's warranty for ease of mind during purchase, but the importance of a warranty really depends on how much you're going to use these binoculars. If you're out every single day in the elements, then having a good warranty is really important, but if you're going out once in a blue moon, it may not matter as much. And there we have it, that is everything. Hopefully this video has given you a better insight into what binoculars may work for you. All the binoculars featured in this video are stocked at George's Cameras, and we have them in store. You're welcome to come in and try them out before you buy them. But that is everything. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.